I'm very excited about the re-release of Grease. It actually feels both like a very long time ago and like yesterday, because when I see all my friends, it's like no time has gone at all. But when I look at the screen, I can see that quite a long time has gone by. And I know that person, but I don't. It's like I know it's me, but it's another part of me that's, back then. I am very happy to promote this movie because it was a big part of my life. It's become a classic. I feel really lucky to be in a movie that's become a classic. I think in the last 20 years, it's gained in popularity. I mean, there's like 2 generations now that love the film. I don't think that it has anything to do with my image now. This movie is a 50s movie made 20 years ago. Everybody knows that, and I'm very happy to be part of it. I think that Grease and Sandy Olsen, my character, have become kind of cult characters, I guess. I think in a good way. Cult has a horrible connotation to it, but I think there can be good cult followings, and a lot of little girls want to dress up as Sandy, and little boys dress up as Danny and do the music, and I think it's pretty harmless cult following for this movie. I think if you ask me how I'd like to be remembered, obviously I'd like to be remembered for my singing, but I would also love to be remembered for giving back, and that would be doing good things for the planet, because I think that's, in the long run, what counts. The planet for our children and for my child and her future is what I feel I'm here for now. But it'd be nice to be remembered for both. I have no major plans for a film at the moment, but I've been offered a few scripts, but just the right one hasn't come along. But I'm open. You got one? I didn't even realise that Back with a Heart was close to the title of Back to Basics until about 2 days ago, and I suddenly thought, oh, look, they both start with back. But up until then, I hadn't even thought about it. Back to Basics was really nothing to do with Back with a Heart, is a whole different meaning of back. And so I hadn't thought of that. Well, Back with a Heart is it's a new album, but with an old kind of feeling, because I've gone back to my country roots with this album, country pop, which is really how I started out. I started out not really realising I was singing country music because my beginnings were in England, and my manager, who was an Australian, loved country music, so he kind of suggested these songs for me. They were written by an Englishman, produced by an Englishman and an Australian at Abbey Road. Didn't really know I was singing country per se. I just knew they were really catchy songs and really good, because in England you have one musical chart and it covers everything: soul, pop, classical, whatever it is, it's all in one chart. So until I got a message from my publisher over here saying, hey girl, you got a country and western hit, you better come over here, I didn't really know that that's what it was all about. So then I started really realizing there was a whole other market that was just country music. And so I've gone back to it because I feel comfortable in that genre and kind of feel that's where I fit in right now. I think it's a little bit of both. I think that it's recognizably me, and I think some of the songs have a feeling of some of the old stuff I've done. Plus there's a few that are new. And for instance, the remake of I Honestly Love You, even though the song's old, the remake of it is very new, has a new edge to it. Babyface sings on it, and David Foster produced it, and the 2 new tracks that I did with John Farrar, who's been my longtime collaborator, always have a new feel. Whatever he comes up with is a new feel to it. So I guess it's a combination of new with the old. I think that the 4 women that you mentioned are all wonderful singers, and it's really all about the song. I think that they're defined by the particular song they have out at the moment. Celine probably for her big ballads, Leanne for her country ballads, and Shania has her own sound. But mostly it's the girls' sound of their voices and the songs. It's their sound that you can pick out. And I think that's the important thing, is to have your own sound, that you're identifiable. And they all have that in common. They've all had different sounding hits. I don't know where you'd put me in there. I'm probably a little bit of all of those, or was back then, 10, 15 years ago. Who would I be closest to? That's a hard one to say. Somebody says I was probably a bit more like Jewel, and other people said I was probably more like Leanne. I don't know how to answer that question. I think I'm an individual, and I think they're all individuals, and that's why they're successful. it was a great experience making this album because I got to work with so many producers. I got to work with 4 of the top Nashville producers. And what I loved about it particularly, and John Farrah's tracks we did here, was that I probably worked in every major studio with every major musician that was here. And got to actually sing the songs live, because now in pop music you've almost lost that ability to do a track live with musicians. You kind of go in, the producer has laid down the track, or he's laid down the drums, and then they lay down the bass, and there's none of that real interaction between the artist and the musician. So what I loved about this album was I actually went to the tracking sessions. I sat with the musicians and sang along, and they threw in their ideas and I threw in mine, and that was really the exciting part. I really felt part of the process, and particularly having written a lot of the songs, that was important, because I had different ideas that I'd like to get in, as well as the producers respecting what they wanted. I had certain things that I'd like to hear. So I think that was really great. And working with 4 different top producers and seeing the different ways they worked, and, you know, professionals are always the best people to work with. They were all so easy, and it was really a pleasure. And then the tracks with David Foster I did in Malibu, because he lives 5 minutes from my house, so I threw on my Ugg boots and went over there and did Honestly Love You at his studio. And John Farrah came to Nashville and did his tracks, and I did my vocals back in Los Angeles at his house, also in Malibu, so it was very convenient. I've considered it. I haven't decided yet. My problem with a world tour is that I have a 12-year-old daughter who's in school, and I'd probably have to think about it, maybe not this summer, but in the summer of next year, and she could come with me then. But to go on a world tour, that's a very grueling kind of prospect for me. So I haven't decided yet. I've done a lot of television promotion and radio promotion, and we'll see. I'm going to do a tour in Australia at the end of the year, and that's home for me, so my daughter will come out and spend some of the time there and see her friends as well, and that'll be fun. But for the rest of the world, I haven't made plans yet. Well, let's start with the last part of the question. Honestly Love You is a song that I loved and always have loved, and I felt very possessive of, because I kind of felt it was my signature song. I love that song so much. And so I noticed that a lot of the old songs from the 70s were being re-recorded, and I got really anxious. Every time a girl would record an album, I go, please don't do Honestly Love You. And so when this album was being put together, I thought, you know, it'd be really nice if I could do it again. So I mentioned it to Tony Brown, and he liked the idea, and I approached David Foster, who I talked about this with him a long time ago, and he'd said he would. And then just my luck, he ran into Babyface at a party and asked him would he do the vocal backings, and he agreed and turned up even. And so I got this really fresh new sound for the song. So that was the reason I did Honestly Love You, and it was not intended for a single. It was like a closing track of the album, but it ended up being the single, it was the first track we cut as well. It's really hard for me to pick favourite tracks because I love this album so much, but I'd have to pick Fight for Our Love as one of them, because I just love the feel. I wanted to do a 50s country song. So I had started this song, and then Victoria Shaw and I wrote the song together, and I really like the way this one turned out. It's got kind of 50s, 90s country, plaintive kind of country song to it. I love Spinning His Wheels, the one I wrote with Gary Burr, for its simplicity and for its message. I think a lot of women can relate to Spinning His Wheels. John Farrah's songs are always great, so both of his songs. On a night like this, I've forgotten the title of it. Under My Skin. Under My Skin has a really great edge to it, and it was really fun for me to sing a song with a little bit of a rock edge to it. And he always writes things that are interesting for me and always quite rangy and hard to sing, but they're fun. Of course, I love Honestly Love You, and I love Back with a Heart because it's the title track, and it's a really positive song. Somebody on the mend, which I feel I was when I was writing this album. This album kind of follows me through a lot of different times in my life, and for me, I mean, I understand a lot of people mightn't, they're just songs, but to me they do follow different areas. Attention, I really love. That was a song I wrote at the Castle about 3 years ago in France. Miles Copeland has a castle there, and songwriters go and get teamed up with people that they've not necessarily ever met before. The first writing session I had was with Gary Burr. I didn't know he was such a famous writer, so thank goodness, because if I'd known, I probably wouldn't have been able to say a thing to him. But this one, Attention, I wrote with Annie Roboff and Steve Suskin, and it was kind of, how I was feeling at that time. So I've come a long way since that song was written. But I think I like all the songs on this album, actually, so it's hard for me to pick a favourite. Love is a Gift is off the soap opera As the World Turns. We wrote it, Victoria Shaw and I wrote that for the soap opera, and it's a wedding song. So if you listen to it, it's really romantic, and that turned out really nice. Tony Brown produced it. I try not to have too many expectations because I think that life never usually lives up to it. So I've enjoyed the process. Of course, it'd be great. I'd love it to be very successful, and I want people to enjoy it. And I hope it does really well. I actually have recorded songs in other languages over the years. I've sung in Japanese, I've sung in French, I've sung in German. I've sung in quite a few languages. But for this one, I haven't thought of it yet. No, but I have done that. I feel very fortunate to be here. A lot of people freak out at turning 50, and some people freak out at turning 40, some freak out at turning 30. Depends where you are in your life and what's going on. I remember when I was turning 40, it was kind of, oh my God, it was like a big deal. And then, the last 10 years I've been through a lot of things, and for me, turning 50 is like a gift. It's like how lucky I am to get there. And I think if we all kind of think, it's just the way you think about things that changes your perception. So now I'm really just happy to make 50 and to be healthy. And I stay healthy by, I eat well, but I always did. I don't drink, I don't smoke. I try to have fun. I run on the beach, go to the gym. Just the regular. I'm not fanatical about it, but I'm conscious. Wow, I've had a most amazing career, and I've had some incredible highlights. I would say, well, the first time that you hear your song on the radio somewhere is exciting. The first time I was driving in America and I heard one of my country songs over the radio. That was exciting. The first time I won an award, a music award, might have been a Grammy. I was on a bus with my band, This Oneness, driving around America, working at school, college campuses. That was an exciting moment. I think receiving my OBE from the Queen of England at Buckingham Palace was exciting. I've had so many. Grease was incredible, of course. The whole phenomena with the album being such a smash and the film. Dancing with Gene Kelly, as well as getting to sing with him, being choreographed by him, and that was an amazing experience that not many people have had. What else have I done? Oh my God, there are so many highlights. So, singing with Cliff Richard, who kind of started me off in my career in England. I recently did a tour with him again in Australia. That was fun. I've had lots. Because I can't remember them anymore, but I've had lots. The first time I performed on stage that I remember was in a coffee lounge in Melbourne when I was 15 years old. My sister was married to a man who owned this little restaurant, and there was a folk singer that came in on the weekends, and so I used to sit at his feet and sing harmonies, and in the end he invited me up on stage, and so then it became a regular thing on Saturday night. I'd sing with him, and he taught me a few chords on the guitar, the only ones I still remember. And I think that was the first time I was kind of on my own up on a stage that I remember. Before that, I was in a girl group. There were four of us all together that sang, and we used to sing traditional jazz, which was the popular thing in those days. You're either a rocker or a jazzer in Australia, and I was a jazzer. So we did that, but my mum stopped me doing it because I wasn't doing my homework. But I was allowed to go to this coffee lounge because my sister was there. And so that's really how it began. There's somebody heard me sing, suggested I went into this talent contest, and I won the talent contest, and that's how it all started. I think my daughter is probably going to be in show business, and although the other day when she was asked, she said she wanted to be a vet, so I'm happy. I mean, whatever she wants to do, I'll encourage her. She has the talent. She's a very talented little actress and a mimic, and has a great, really, really pretty voice. So, whatever, if she wants to be in show business, I'll encourage her. And I would like her to finish school, of course, and get an education, but that's what they wanted for me too. So we'll see what happens.